We'll start our roundtable. Before the roundtable, I will give a very short introduction of the archive in process. Over the past 2 years, we have continuously pondered what we accomplished as a new journal. It's published on an international and online platform, is open access, and is in English, with our editorial team based in China. Beyond publishing the Euro research and review articles, what else should we do? Naturally, for any new journal, the foremost task is to ensure its survival. We were fortunate to receive support from many scholars such as Michael, Hilde Heinen, Maria Jacopo, which enabled us to publish some truly outstanding articles. Beginning last summer, we gained more capacity to strategically consider how we could leverage our unique position and the prevailing conditions in China. It's widely acknowledged that there is a significant disparity in the coverage of Chinese architecture and architects between Chinese and English journals. The volume of information in terms of both content and depth is extremely imbalanced, which undoubtedly limits international scholars and architects' understanding of contemporary Chinese architecture. For instance, one architect, Liu Jiakun, won the Pressig Prize recently. The entire Chinese architecture community rejoiced. Yet many foreign scholars and architects found themselves asking, who is Liu Jiakun? We have talked about this 2 days ago when I had dinner with Michael and Roemer. Roemer really asked the question. These instances clearly underscore the vital necessity of providing in-depth English language coverage of Chinese architects and their projects. As we gradually became more familiar with the intricacies of online publishing, our understanding of publication also shifted from the confined space of traditional print media to the flexible advantages offered by online platforms. The key distinction from conventional portfolios or articles is reporting on projects is that we discovered remarkable flexibility regarding text length and image capacity. Effectively, there seems to be no limit. Thus, we decided to begin our experimentation with the Long Museum project. Yichun was exceptionally accommodating of our nascent approaches and trials. Ultimately, we largely achieved results that satisfied both parties. The only regret was our conservatism at the time, as we initially selected 45 images. These are the photos that we have, images that we published. So here you can see the appearance of the web page version. And this is the PDF version. For the Yanqing Winter Olympic venue, we again benefited from Xinggang's exceptional patient cooperation. This project was extraordinarily complex, encompassing not only intricate functions but also a considerable array of technology challenges. Consequently, Xinggang spent an entire day accompanying us on site, and later we also visited his studio. For this project, we incorporated a greater quantity of images and a broader variety of media. This included on-site sketches, technical drawings, photographical documentation captured before, during, and after construction, as well as handwritten notes, analytical diagrams, and research models. Ultimately, we utilized 74 images. This is the web page version, and I can show you. Yeah, okay, it works. You can see what is the web page like. It's much longer than expected. Okay, on the left that you can see a list of all images with hyperlinks. Okay, we'll finish. This is the PDF version. Online publishing platforms operate with their own production model and workloads, often involving international divisions of labor, which differ significantly from traditional publishing. In the standardized layout process, our editorial team typically cannot directly intervene in the typesetting. While it's still possible to work within these constraints, we recently began to negotiating an alternative production model. We will handle the layout of the article's PDF file rather than being confined to the fixed formats provided by the publisher. Following the publication of these two projects, we also conducted promotions within the Chinese context, subsequently receiving considerable attention from Chinese architects and scholars. There was significant interest in this new project's dissemination format, allowing with expectations and suggestions. Well, this has certainly increased my sense of pressure, as the format still has considerable limitations and 100 images are far from a complete archive. It has reinforced the necessity of initiating this discussion with architects and scholars. Here are some questions I hope we can explore during this discussion. First, architects' archiving and publishing habits. Second, the differences in the use of archives for professionals versus for scholars. Third, media characteristics of online publishing and the selection of archival images. Fourth, what characteristics should the text within archives possess, and what is the relationship between text and images? Fifth, the disparity between on-site experience and archival documentation is inherently insurmountable. Is it nevertheless possible through the conscious selection of archival materials to minimize this difference? We have expanded the number of published images for Long Museum and Yanqing Winter Olympic venue to nearly 100, building upon what was originally published. We had also included materials for Liangzhou campus, which will be published soon. These are printed out and placed on the table, serving as illustrative examples and materials for our roundtable discussion. We sincerely hope that you can contribute from diverse perspectives and help us to refine and advance this endeavor. Thank you very much.
So what we'd like to do, this is going to be more, I think, even more informal than previous discussions, and maybe requires a little more back and forth. Because what we'd like, I first want to turn to the architects whose archives have already been published, and ask you a couple of questions. And then what I'd like is, at any point, anyone from the table who has even the briefest comment about how to sort of amplify and expand how we're thinking about these archives, jump in. So there are no kind of rules of engagement. Just give me a signal and I will boom. But Xinggang, I'd like to start with you, because yours is one of the most, in some ways complicated, only in this sense that the site, when you enter the site, there's nothing there at all, and it's so vast that even to do the analysis, which we published, or the journal published, even to do the analysis before you can even in a way comprehend the site, had to be done. What I'd first like to ask both of you maybe is just the two, right? The campus is. Oh, but the campus is coming. Okay. So, that's okay. Sorry, I didn't realize. First, I'd like to ask you before about the publication. In your office, do you have archives? What do you archive? Models, drawings? Are they digital, or, and especially, I think all of you still do sketches, physical sketches, and you all make physical models. Are those physical sketches archived, or is everything digital? So just first, briefly, get a sense of how each office handles your own archives. And then, just so you know where we're going, what I'd like to know is the way that Ying and the team are proposing, is it adequate for would you use it? How would you use it, or how would you expect to benefit from it? Would you like to see people comment? Would you like to see comments by other professionals or by scholars? That sort of thing. And then from the audience, or from the audience perspective, just suggestions of what kinds of comments you think could be made, you would like to make, potentially. Just sort of speculate on how this could be developed and used and become more useful. But first, just a sense of how the offices handle your archives. Yeah.
Thank you, Michael, for the question. For us, I want to say the archive issues. It's firstly, it's a rule in our company. Our design drawings, especially for the development design and the construction design drawings, have to be put into the archive department, and all the drawings and all the change the document about calculation of the structure, and also the change, the document, design document for the change, for the design change in the construction. All these things have to be stored in our archive department as the legal evidence to be checked in the possible moment in the future, and also become the material study for the younger generation study how to make a design, make a deep design. This is the first level, most important. And for the design process document, for us, it's in the former experience, our former generation, they don't care about this design process documentary. But in 2003, which is 22 years ago, when I set up my own studio, and just before that, I worked in Basel together with Hersun Dermron in a short period for this national stadium competition. I observed the design process documentary is very well be organized, including the printed document, the architect's sketches draft. And every time the Jack and Pierre's sketch will be after he draw, and this piece of sketch will be closed with plastic things and transparent and kept for the office. And they
not for legal reasons, but for the office.
For the office, yeah. And also, of course, they made a lot of model. And the models will be take picture carefully, and the images will be printed and saved in the computer in the digital way. So they have 3 parts of the archive design process archive. One is in digital way. For each project, they will have a very detailed but standard content list for each project, different stage and different type of the documentary. And the second part is the printed documentary. So each project, there will be a booklet. To every digital document, we will have a printed documentary. Yes, and every printed will have a digital one. And also, of course, the third part is the models, the physical things. So when I came back and we won the competition and we began to work together for this project, I set up my own studio. I learned from Hersun Dermron's office, and we set up this system for how to organize the design archive system. We do the similar things. So yeah.
I want to ask Young-Ho, you, first of all, your office, you've been in practice longer, I think. Also, you do a lot of projects, or did a lot of projects, which were never intended to be built. So the drawing exists, the drawing is the project in your case. And also, the drawing is not a working drawing that is reproduced. It is let me say, it is like a work of art.
Right.
I want to ask you how you handle that, but also I also know you like books, and it's almost like you produce books as projects. Is the book a way of archiving the drawings? Is the book like a building? Is it its own final thing, and therefore does the book need to be preserved and and archived itself as an object, as if it were a gongxi. I mean, like you know. Anyway, talk a little bit of. It's a peculiar. Yours is a little more peculiar. You have the same thing, Xigong, because your drawings are also art. They're not just sketches. But anyway, how do you handle that?
We do publish books, and also we have done a few exhibitions, solo big exhibitions of the work in the office. That became the way we kind of so we don't have, put it this way, the office doesn't really have an archive per se to really keep everything. But for the projects in the books and in the exhibitions, actually we would have them better recorded or saved. So so that's a problem actually. So some of the projects we have better documents and more accessible. Some aren't.
And it's random, more or less, or just
well, it's, of course, the better projects probably are in
more careful.
Better shape, but the lesser ones, at the time they were considered lesser ones, so they're in just sort of storage and not really being able to, even for us, to retrieve and study them. For models, it's even worse because they take a lot of spaces. We have over 100 some models here in Shanghai, in the Model Museum.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm sure you do too, right? Yeah.
Oh, that's where they go. That's where the models go.
Yeah. I don't know how many do you have in the... Only two?
Most of them might.
Your own. Oh, okay, yeah. However, the books, especially some are like, especially for the drawings I did in the past before we started the practice, they were, as you say, they were the final products of that project. We also had an exhibition, so not only that set of drawings are well organized, archived in some way, and also there are digital forms because of the making of the book. So they are well scanned and kept.
I see.
Yeah.
Now, what I'd like to do, I want to ask Yichun. I could ask all these questions of all of you, but I'm also trying just to get a sort of sampling. I was particularly struck by that the second project you showed them with the tile. I don't remember how it's called. First of all, I think you almost would have to visit. Maybe it's always the case with the architecture that is built. You have to visit it to really get the full impact. But the photographs, for me, had proportionally more impact, whereas the drawings were a little more informational. It was really because of the combination of different materials of different ages and different combinations. You need to see the real thing to really experience it. Do you archive photographs as documents as well as just using them for presentation purposes? You see what I'm trying to ask? If you document working drawings, you're not going to be able to experience the building. So do you also document photographs or videos for the experience of the building?
Yes. Yeah, of course. Every project will have firstly to come to the site and take photos, or just stand there imagining or thinking, or and also with going with colleagues, they will take their photos. I'll take my photos, and with the video, now is
The drone with the drone.
Yeah.
Ah,
Basically, every projects we have three kind of data folder. First is in progressing design, and second is for publish, and the third is completely after the complete with the construction drawings with all the legal drawings in the one data folder. But for the first design folder, data folder is for everything. First with the record of the site, the photos, the sketches, or all the photos by different people or from the client. And also we just saved all the communication between the architects and the client, the letters, all the records, and also with the structural engineer, the something like that. Yeah, okay. So, but we never organized it unless Ying or somebody come to publish something. I will to find even the presentation. I will to find the site photo, the original photo, different folders. I try to find it. And for the sketch, I haven't have a habit to restore the sketches. I always I will talk with somebody, and while drawing something, I just leave it. Yeah. So the Law Museum, the sketch just by him. So because I haven't copied with Herzog de Meuron, so so I haven't a transparent folder for the sketch. But maybe after I will have that. Yeah.
yeah, but I'm realizing to really handle these artifacts, documents, you would need a museum-like staff to really handle it. But I want to bring the scholars in too. How might you use an archive like this if you're writing an article, or obviously if you're going to write something on the building, you would use it. But can you imagine being attracted to it for research purposes, for teaching purposes, and sort of how would you imagine using it? Maybe Elisa, we haven't talked about ever. Did you ever use Peter Eisman's archive at the CCA, for example? And would you use an archive like this for your work?
Yeah, I think that the archive is an incredible resource. And my comment that I've been sort of thinking on this whole time has been exactly along these lines, that I think it's important to note the utility of this kind of thing. I think especially because in the American context, it seems to me that it's rarer and rarer for academic journals to focus on publishing projects. And so what I see with my students, for example, is that when they're looking for precedents, they are Googling or they are looking on Dzine in basically these non-academic sites that have basically no curation. Or if they're just working through Google Images or just searching on the internet, they won't know. There's a lack of rigor. They won't know who made it. They won't know who drew it. And so I think that the more we can have these kinds of structured resources where it gives you the right information about the building, where it is, what year, but also like a comprehensive documentation of it, the better the students can learn from it. So from my perspective as a teacher and as an educator, I think that this is fabulous. And then I think also that there's a real importance to opening up this work to a global audience. And so creating these kinds of websites and making them very accessible to anyone, anywhere, also has its own kind of utility. And I've been reflecting also maybe on Roemer's question around modernization in China, and then what that has meant for sort of spatial concepts and the kind of articulation of architectural thought here. And, also listening that many of you have experiences going to the United States, but I feel like I have no experience coming here. And so to me, any instance of being able to access this work more directly and to be able to understand it better seems like such an incredible opportunity. So from my perspective, it does seem extremely useful. And then to your question about archives, I never actually have used Peter's archive in the CCA, maybe because I spent too much time hanging out with him directly, so I would just kind of talk with him. Maybe that was lazy on my part. But nonetheless, I do think that that's extremely important. And ultimately, what I find so important in architectural scholarship is to spend a lot of time looking at buildings. And the more resources we can create for that kind of study, the better, in my view, because to understand a building, there are so many aspects that we have to look at, right? From the material to the spatial organization, to the form, to the site, to the context. And so buildings are complex and they're hard to study. And so these kinds of resources, I think, are completely essential.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with what Elisa is saying. Maybe I can add something, and we see it in education. I think we all experience this kind of Googling and actually not seeing, not able to see, but copying a kind of image and then reworking it, but not understanding that architecture is both thought and visualization and spatialization. So you really need, and I think it's really unique that this archive is being set up, and it's so important to have indeed what Elisa is saying, this rigor to really study and to know what the architecture production is about. But also, I think even the magazines, like El Coquis and others, they never show all the plans. There are a few plans, but there's always, there are photographs, there are some plans, but if you really start to study them, you miss a floor, or the floor is wrong, etc. So to really understand the building, sometimes you have to phone the office, I missed that drawing, etc. So for the archive, it's also excellent if everything is really documented. I thought about something else, like the Architectural Institute in the Netherlands, it's now called the New Institute, is that they cannot archive everything. So the tendency of the archive is also understandable. You have to make selection because you cannot document anything, but that you go for the authors. So you go for the architects who produce work. So for instance, there was now a very interesting archive becoming available, because in the Netherlands we have the state architect who's not building himself, it's mostly a him in this case, now also women, but they don't build, but they allow a culture of building to arrive, and they work with ministries, and that kind of archives are not documented, but they are very interesting policies of new way of urbanization, of another generation to give them a chance to build, etc. So the larger scope, for instance, if you think of what Koolhaas was doing, starting to map the transformation of China from his perspective, I think those kind of things is also very relevant to document. So for instance, when we were doing in the Netherlands the architecture yearbook, which is still existent, the architecture yearbook always wants to document the 30 best buildings in the Netherlands of a year. But we thought we should not only show the exquisite buildings, but also show certain tendencies of transformation in which the architects have to work. So it raises also the question, as an archive, do you only look to the authorship of certain persons? And in what sense are you also going to document certain histories in which those authors operate? I think it's also interesting or relevant to document from a historical perspective. And then I thought, and I think you do a lot of exhibitions, but I think it's also the argument was of Jean-Louis Cohen that if you speak to an audience and explain architecture, it works best through models. And I think it's so important to, although it's very difficult and it takes so much space, is really to keep those models, from sketching models, but also the representation of models, because they're so powerful for a larger public. And even for students to really understand the quality, because you cannot always visit the site, unfortunately. So, yeah, it's a big issue, but I think it's very, very important to keep the models.
Can I add one more thing about models? Because the other thing that I don't teach this at the GST, but at Cooper and at Yale, I taught for many, many years the formal analysis course. And that was such a central aspect of my pedagogy in those years. And I would have the students build analytic models of precedents. And so when we would assign buildings, the quality of the analysis was often correlated to the quality of the documentation that they could find. And we would have them build digital and physical models of the buildings that they were studying. And so something like this is an incredible resource for that kind of teaching, because the students will actually rebuild the building themselves. And in doing that, it's an incredible learning opportunity for them to think about how the building comes together, both literally and conceptually. And they kind of have to build it up and then take it apart and put it back together in an analytic way. And so the better the documentation, the better the work, because they can dive further and further into what they think is happening. And, you know, we had some cases where the buildings were not well documented. And, you know, in some ways it was exciting. The students would produce sort of like the definitive set of drawings that we knew of. But a lot of it was speculation, right? And maybe some of it is wrong and you don't really know. And so from, you know, a pedagogical perspective, and I love how you put it, Roemer, where you said architecture is both thought and visualization. And I think the formal analysis context is a place where those really come together, because you're understanding that the way that the building comes together is the way that space is thought, and the way that space is thought is the way that the architect is thinking through the relationship between a human and the world, right? So you can sort of look at it in its finest grain of detail all the way to something highly conceptual or, you know, relational and, you know, ontological. So it's really a beautiful thing to be able to interact with buildings as artifacts that we are studying and learning from, and we're studying the world through architecture. So I think in that case, the archive is also essential.
Jacopo, you were deeply involved with this. Would you care to comment?
Yeah, of course. I wanted to kind of reach back to something that Ying mentioned in the introduction of this segment, and point out that we are in a sort of ambiguous field. So our problem is archiving, yes, but our problem is also disseminating, right? So we are talking about the archive as a goal, which is a general overarching problem, but the archive for us is a medium. The archive, the documents that we collect, are a medium for telling a certain story, addressing a certain gap in knowledge. And I think that if we think neutrally about archiving, so in a sense, scale, size, number of images, the more the better, then we lose the dissemination part in favor of the conservation part. Right? There is a story to be told. If the story is not told, it's like the paradox of the map, right? If I see the designs published on ArcDaily and I just glance through them, they might all look the same. Or there is a flattening out of diversity, right? But the flattening out happens also when you see a mass of construction photos, right? There is Umberto Eco, the Italian philosopher and semiotic theorist, used to say that there is the same amount of information in the Sunday edition of the New York Times and in the Pravda. Because in one case, you're overflown with data, and in the other case, you don't have data, but still you don't get a story. So I think that the problem in our case, it's kind of finding that sweet spot where you do provide some neutral or seemingly neutral amount of information for new scholarship to emerge, but you do that while telling a story. And if that story is lost, then it becomes inert. Then there is nothing that comes out of it.
That's very helpful.
Yeah, I think it's related to my question, the relationship between images and the text. Yeah, because we try to find a way to narrate, but we try to find a neutral way. But we need to use this text to organize all the images, which has a numerous number. So that's the difficulties I propose. I think Jacopo understand very well because we have so many discussions during the work. So I hope to.
Well, I think maybe I'll add some my observation about, because I'm curating many architecture exhibitions, especially in China. The archiving is a big system that many complicated factors should be taken into consideration, like intellectual property and ownership. So sometimes you have a very good side of the enhance the quality of research, but at the same time, as Jacopo was saying, the dismantling or disseminating information and the media is another way, but sometimes the archive will set up a kind of a obstacle to enhance this contribution of dissemination of information and architectural images. So through the exhibition, I want to use one case that in Hangzhou there will be I think it's October. There will be a review exhibition on Peter Eisenman. Do you know that? In the Hangzhou Wangshu's Academy, the design museum designed by Alvaro Siza, and I'm a consultant advisor for that. And they had a lot of problems with getting right to exhibit. With they talking with the CCA and they talking with Peter Eisenman's office. Although Peter Eisenman is very cooperative, but he cannot go through those barriers to give us this right to use some images and models. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of pain in the ass. So also I did an exhibition on Isuzaki. Probably you heard that. Because it's the intention of the exhibition is to open for his 90th birthday celebration. But because of COVID, it's postponed for a couple of years, and he passed away during the period of preparation. So then everything becomes so complicated, because when he was alive, was still there, he could interfere into the discussion with the many Japanese museums who holding the property of his models, because archive collected most of his wonderful, beautiful models. And then when he passed away, they want to charge us, or they put a lot of rules that they want to secure during the shipping of those models, the humidity and everything. It will make it super expensive to transport all those models to Shanghai to be exhibited. We think of another. We are trying to another model, as Yong-Ho said, that we created together with a listed company here, Feng Yuzhu. We create an architectural model museum. Well, architects have the desire to preserve as more as possible their models, but at the same time, it's a very space and time and also resource consuming, that they cannot. Their models will be just simply put in a corner in their office or in his garage. in 2 years, it will be it become trash. So the museum will create a kind of a space to preserve and to make a better environment to protect all those models. But they, at the same time, the museum can exhibit all those models, and they sell tickets to the general public. It's a very popular architecture model museum. People pay, and then they need to register and to see the models, and then all the property ownership of the models belongs to the architect. So it's like you have a free storage, and the benefit for the museum is they advertise their company, and they show it to the general public. And then as long as you want to exhibit somewhere else, then the museum will automatically give you the models for free to exhibit. That's something that we're testing. Yeah. But the service is we need to improve the service to architects. You put 2 models there, right? Yeah. And
You said you had like a 20?
No, over 100.
Over 100 there.
Wow, wow.
So it saved a lot of money for him.
I want to have time for just one. Yeah, okay. And this is where, if possible, if I could hear from like students, because I want to think about the future, the students, but also going back to the architects that have the models in. I want, because we have this technological apparatus, I want to think about the possibility of learning from social media, how they could be used. We have a colleague, Eric Howler, who regularly posts on Instagram. He teaches a construction course, and he's really interested, but he teaches it like a designer, and he is a designer. And he goes out and takes photographs of buildings, takes photographs of the corners, takes photographs of all the details, puts it on Instagram and comments, and then other people will comment on it. The Instagram becomes almost didactic, the way Eric uses it. And once he'll say, at Michael Hayes, when he shows up, he was at ETH and looked at the Hannes Meyer archives, and he said, at Michael Hayes, did Hannes Meyer ever do the Peter Scholi without the cantilever? And so all of a sudden it becomes like you're using it like WeChat, but you're using it in a didactic way. We don't have WeChat, so Instagram doesn't work. But what I'm trying to get at is this: would the architects value comments, and if you would, and it could be a short answer, would you value them more from other professionals or artists, or from scholars, or just lay people? Would it be useful in any way? And especially if there's a student who is into the social media aspect of it, and also just getting the information, like educationally, would you comment? Would you like to receive notices? Were you saying? Oh, no, you were saying that the dissemination. I'd like to hear from the student perspective, if they got a regular weekly notice or notes from the archives. Would that be helpful somehow? Would it be interesting, or would it just be overload? So any kind of help of using the idea, the concepts from social media and commentary, and just to establish a discourse. Can we think about that? Or not. Thank you, Kat. It's close enough.
But I want to kind of build. It's not going to be a direct answer. I want to take it in a slightly different direction. So the way yesterday we had this presentation, what was his name? From Mexico, that used Twitter and the images from Twitter to kind of build a counter archive.
Oh wow!
Right, they were reading these inscriptions of the feminist movement in Mexico yesterday.
Of course, sorry, yes.
And he was reading it as a counter archive. So I think that's interesting, of using social media in that way as well. Which brings me to my question about the counter archive, and if any of you have thought about something like that, or the concept, because I find it as someone who's worked in the archives a lot, like a very useful notion of kind of that recognizes the archive as an unstable and incomplete repository. So, and it is tailored, right? Whether because there's not enough space, or because we have a template, or because, I don't know, you want to present a narrative and disseminate a narrative, you tailor it in a certain way. I don't think it's ever neutral. So it's always constructed in a certain way. So I was thinking about this counter archives as a strategy. And I think it goes with the Benjamin topic that encourages kind of critique and to disrupt dominant power structures, and to offer alternative ways of reading and remembering, preserving, and inscribing even buildings, projects, objects, etc. So I don't know if and what you think about this notion of the counter archive.
Yeah.
I just want to follow up a little bit. I think the archives, as historians, we are always working on archives, and one of our goals, in a way, is trying to demystify the image that was built by the people, by the figure, built the foreground. And the historians are tending to dig into the background and see that, well, there is something else there. We can have a new look at this person. So I think the very idea of publishing the archive, architect's archive, is kind of paradoxical in its own concept, because we are trying to find something else and to build a new image of the architects built for themselves, or we are trying to just demolish the fake reputation there. So we are very lucky to find at least 3, and we have more architects trying to do this cooperate with us. But basically, I think there's a issue here, is that the very goal of the very sense of archives is not formed by kind of narrations, but is always beyond all the narrations. So it's just it's always there, and we can find something else. So I think here is one of the difficulties we are facing, is that we're trying to enlarge the size of the published archives online, because we have the capacity of online documents. So you can see that if you scroll that, it's a long time. But still, trying to organize them is something that there was always a competition here of whether we are doing an archive or we are doing a criticism. We are trying to rebuild the image that's different from the architects, but still is another kind of narrations. So I think this is something that, for me, is another issue that's related with the counter archives.
Can I also add to that? I think another issue is who owns the archive, not legally. I have an experience with my dad's archive. After the Cultural Revolution, actually, there's very little left. However, there's one scholar or researcher took interest in that. And then for years now, because she did her PhD on my father, and then she's teaching, she graduated. She actually is at Harvard, at Fairbanks Center, not at GSD. And she sort of, so the role of the scholar, put that way, actually make her the owner, not us. Of course we own the material papers and whatever. And she's constantly working on that. Whenever there's a new material discovered, either a building or some drawings, she would have put it in the archive, and she actually publishes a book. So we're not, the architects, we are not able to do that. So I think that would be a lesson to be really considered. So it's not only just keeping the stuff, but or even organizing, right? It's actually really gave these material a structure, already a meaning in a way. Why it's doing it.
That's very helpful. Yeah. Did you? No. Okay. Ying, what else do you need, or should we go to lunch? Oh, you want to go back to text and image? Yeah. How can we ask this? From the architect's perspective, or
opinions about
this? Let me just.
Or should I explain it a little bit about my question?
Yeah.
Because the online platform, it's a flat one. We have no folders there. We can only put either 100 images or several hundred of images there. So you already saw the web page version. So everything was there and numbered. Then we have a text. So all the materials organized by the text. So this is still a kind of limitation of this way. So I want to know, we have talked about there's no neutral text or yes, I know it should be something from our point, because like when I wrote about the Yanqing project, I try to be as neutral as possible, but I still could be of course, later I will maybe have a position, or I was influenced by what I have seen and what I have heard from the architect or what I have read from the books. So I need to find a way, because later we found that the text is very short, but the images with a huge number. So it's we need to find the relation between the text, how the text was, say it in a simple way, is how is the text related to the images.
Thoughts?
Perhaps an answer, perhaps not, because it's a very important question. It's also a very hard question how to do that. So I understand the complexity. I think there doesn't exist, as far as I know, a kind of archive which tries to neutrally document the stuff, also visually, and then mostly because of the lack of cost. Also, most institutes depend on the photos which the architects provide. The architects have a certain preferences to document the buildings in a classical way. There are never people on it. The sky is always blue. So we get a kind of subjective image, which doesn't maybe even show the use, or over time it's photographs when it was just built, etc., etc. So it is a subjective documentation, if you like it or not. So in order perhaps to overcome that, you need perhaps as institute, and I think that's also what Jacopo is saying, you cannot collect everything, so you have to need to do an edit. Since you cannot do one edit, perhaps you have to have a plurality of vision. So that could mean, for instance, you invite one or two photographers, if possible, to also document it. And that is a kind of, which we know from magazines as well, because I think, to put it bluntly, most academics are not able to look. They write a lot of text, and then they need an image, and then the image is an illustration. The image is not an idea, is not a depiction of the idea. So where thought and the visualization or the concept starts to speak. And that, I think, is very limited, especially for a practice which is non-verbal. It speaks through spatial architecture. So you need a kind of, that would be unique, you need a kind of photography of documentation where, and sometimes the architects themselves do it, and in their sketches, etc. So that sometimes means that if you make a website and the way you combine text and visual documentation, you need a kind of journalistic editorial in the way you put the things together in order to let the idea speak. So on the one hand, I think when you have a good kind of editorial journalism, then with the existing material, like you also do in books, you can somehow document the idea both with text and visualization. But that's a kind of rigorous work which is not just neutral. You really have to understand the idea of the architect. So it's a lot of work. But it could also mean that you invite maybe one other photographer, for instance, to also document the project. So what we did in the architecture yearbook, we got all the material from the architects, we made a selection, but we also had one photographer, for the yearbook, who also made some other photos as well. So showed those buildings in a larger context, for instance, than also only how the architect is focusing on the object itself. So to open it a little bit so that more views have a chance.
Yeah, I thank you, and yes, we really try to do something in a similar way, because although Xinggang provided us almost everything that they have, but we still feel that when I want to express some ideas, we still need a new maybe perspective of some places. So I took a PhD student to go there with me together, but it's not a professional photographer, but she still has done some, take some photos and to express the ideas that I want to write in the text.
But now I remember from, I think it was at the CCA, that they sometimes open the archive, so they invite somebody to open up the archive and do a reading of the material in the archive. And that can also be very interesting. And then they make a small exhibition or a small publication of it. So if you build that kind of series, you have different viewpoints of how something in the archive is edited and brings a certain agenda to the fore, and then it becomes a discussion on the readings of the work. Yeah.
What I would suggest, I mean, it's funny too. Those of us of a certain age who worked on old-fashioned archives, non-digital archives. When I was working on Hilbersheimer's archive, there was an Italian woman at the same time. I think we were both in Chicago the same week, and she kept leaving her notes in the files, and I just found it irritating. I just, I didn't care what she thought. On the other hand, coming back to Diana's point, well, I was thinking, Diana, when you were talking, I was thinking about if I went to Kohlhoff's archive and there was a commentary by Leah, I think I would enjoy that if there was a commentary section. On the other hand, as just a part of the descriptive part of the archive, I think I would find it irritating. That's just me. You see what I'm trying to say, though, to distinguish the documentation from the commentary, encourage the commentary, as you were saying, or allow the commentary, but as counter narrative, not as. Yeah, that's what I'm trying. That's what I would say. But I'm not. I may just be old-fashioned. Yeah. Please.
Maybe I can add something for your reference. From architect point of view, first, when we make a design and in our design documentary, you will always need text descriptions to cover all the things which the drawings cannot completely express. So every first page of the drawing construct drawing documents will be text. It describes the whole things about the product, the design work of the product, and it's equal. It's equal to the drawings in legal point of view. Yes, this is first reference, and second, in Chinese art creation, especially for the scholars, the painters, we had a special way of the landscape painting. It's called in Chinese handbook. It's always it's when a person travel and he paint and he write. And it's the achievement will be a set of paintings plus poems or poetic articles. And he write in handwriting, and so the other one side is drawing, and the other side is the text, the handwriting. So it's actually this is the archive for his travel. So what he experienced and what moved him and what he want to transfer to the other people, and it's like a special bilingual language. So he write because he think the painting is not enough to express or to be archive, and he paint because only the text is not enough to be expressed. This is good. Another.
That's what we try to do for images, and we have very long caption for each image.